Okay, Charles Dickens is the author of Great Expectations, and in his writing, he liked to use a lot of his personal experiences to bring out certain points in his book. And Pip, the main character of Great Expectations, is orphaned at a very young age to where he doesn't even know who his parents really were, and he lives with his sister. Now, Charles, at age 12, was orphaned too because his father and mother went off to prison. So, do you think do you think that's why he tied he tied like or tried to like connect Pip to himself? Do you think he used that?
I would. If I was an author, I would use my personal experiences. I think it'd be easier for you to write about what you know instead of just making things up.
Yeah. Feedback, Joe?
That sounds
Yeah.
fantastic.
Okay. And so, do you think the reasoning behind him doing that is like he wants people to know his personal experiences, or do you think that like he just wants to be remembered by what's in his book, or he wants to like sort of write history about himself in his novels?
I feel like writing off of personal experience, he might want to try to have like a personal connection with the readers, and the easiest way to do that is to tell things that have actually happened to you, so that they can connect with you better.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel like not everything in his book actually happened, or like in his books actually happened to him, though.
Yeah.
So it's not like you would know
Not
everything. So it's kind of hard to know exactly his history since it's kind of broken up.
Okay, and the book's title obviously is Great Expectations, and that basically means that they have great expectations for Pip himself throughout the story. Even as a young boy, when he goes to Miss Havisham's, who's a wealthy lady who basically had her heart broken, she's cold, but she's giving him a chance. He learns that there's more expected out of him than to simply be a blacksmith, which is what he was going into apprenticeship for. And yeah, I have no idea where I was going with this.
It's okay.
Okay, well, anyways, throughout the story, we see like different aspects of the book that tie into that Great Expectations. Like when he meets Estella, who is Miss Havisham's like adopted child, and she's all proper and nice, and he's a common child, you know, that like they don't get along at all. Well, he loves her, instantly falls in love with her, but she is cruel and harsh and like basically calls him common and makes fun of him for it. So how do you think like that ties in with the whole idea? Because basically it ends up being where Pip tries to like become a gentleman so he can have Estella, and the Great Expectations ties into that. So like what is your opinion on that?
Um, I think that it was probably a good idea for him to become more like proper and stuff to like get the girl. It's kind of cute.
Get the girl, it's kind of cute and makes a great love story.
So the thing is, like the Great Expectations, he's trying to become a gentleman so he can have her. I'm assuming that because he's common, he's expected to be more than just a common person. He's supposed to go above and beyond what's normally accepted to.
But at the same time, in doing that, he leaves behind his old life. Now, he didn't like his sister. His sister was mean to him, but when she passed, her husband, who was nice to him all the time, is left. But he is common and improper, and so when he goes off to become a gentleman, he kind of leaves him behind and doesn't really want anything to do with him. So, like, how does that make you feel? Like, there's a reward that comes with him becoming a gentleman, but there's also shoving down like other family members, like keeping them away.
Yeah, he kind of like had to make sacrifices for what his final goal was. I don't know. I mean, does he get the girl? Is it worth it?
He never officially gets Estella. There's two different
Oof.
endings where she's married once in the book, and she, I believe, gets divorced or her husband dies, and um, there's one ending where she marries another guy and she never sees Pip again, and then there's another where they meet in the garden of Miss Havisham's place long after she's dead. You know, they're both in like their 30s or or late 20s, and they like the book ends with them walking out together. So that brings up another question, like, do you think they actually stay together, or do you think based on like the experiences that they had together they're just going to be friends? Or
I don't know. If I were the girl, I'd be like impressed with him trying to like make such an effort to impress me and that kind of thing. And I think that they would end up together.
But he did mention, you did say that the chick was cold, right?
yeah, she was very
Harmless.
when
Hey,
he's
Heartless.
people can change. You never
I like
know.
that. People can
She-
change.
she only changes though because he's a gentleman now. That's the thing.
Yeah.
She's still
So she's only nice because he's of
he
pretty
is
close
of
people
her
status.
class, yeah.
People's
And
status.
do you think it was the right of Pip to just kind of shove his family away and leave them in the dust?
I feel that,
Not necessarily, I guess.
yeah, that maybe he could have still gone to get an upper class, but he could have also stayed in contact with friends. He didn't like have to totally exclude them.
Well, he does stay in contact with them, but at the same time, he's not like
It's
he's
never
not
gonna be the
proud
same.
to say that they're his family. Really,
Yeah.
is the point. Like when he goes out in public or he sees Joe, who was Miss Joe's husband, obviously. When he sees him walking around in a suit, he just thinks of him as very improper and very awkward looking because he is a commoner and he has no business in a suit. And so, like, through those experiences, yeah, I lost my train of thought.
So it's a kind of that quit. But also, isn't he just kind of a commoner in a suit, or is it just because of the goal
Well-
of him trying to achieve like a higher class status that he considers himself better than his family? Or
It's just because he's not really a commoner. Like, throughout the book, he's learning how to be a gentleman. Because, you know, not everybody just starts out
Yeah.
as a proper upper class citizen. And that brings up another point where he has a benefactor throughout the story. Then that's how it really starts him off trying to become a gentleman. The benefactor is a random person who we don't know about until very late in the story. And in the movie version, it starts out where he has 250 pounds a year to spend from this benefactor. But when he turns 21, he gets 500 pounds a year from this benefactor who he has no idea who it is, just to try and become a gentleman. So do you think Dickens added that part just to make it simpler for him to become a gentleman, or more believable, more realistic?
I think it sounds like he kind of added that to make it more realistic. You can't just like go from nothing to all of a sudden having everything. So that makes a lot of sense for him to have somebody who gave him money and things like that.
Kind of supplied the path for him.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of hard to does he know the benefactor, or is it just some kind of like random you have
No.
to assume that they have to know each other some way. Or,
Later in the book, he learns who the benefactor is, but the benefactor knows who he is.
Yeah.
And obviously, and so he's trying to help out Pip. And we learn later on in the book who he said, or who he was that did that. And it kind of ties in with Pip helping the convict early on in the book. When he brought him food, he stole stuff to bring it to the convict and helping him. His benefactor is actually a convict himself. And I believe he's the uncle of Herbert, who is another character that helps Pip on his path to becoming a gentleman. We see him early on in the book at Miss Havisham's place, and Pip fights him because for some reason the boy wants to fight him. And then Pip knocks him down, and later on they become really close while Pip is trying to become proper. And his uncle was actually the benefactor. The convict, is that still going?
This could get weird. This could get weird.
Let's please hope that this is
Everything
still
deleted,
going.
start over.
Okay.
No, so we are still going.
Okay,
All right,
I was
all right.
good.
On another note.
Right. Sorry, it turned off. Anyways, and then, oh, I totally just lost.
The convict.
Oh,
they
the
met.
convict. Okay. Miss Joe, who was also trying to make him proper from the start, really does it in a different way. She beats him with a cane and makes him drink tar water.
Sounds
Obviously, it's not going to taste very good, but that kind of ties in. She says if he doesn't stop asking questions as a child and stop doing stupid things, he's going to end up a convict himself. Now, Pip, when he finds out who his benefactor is, he does not turn him into the cops. Do you think that makes him like a cop or like a convict himself, like a criminal type person, or
So this convict who's his benefactor, it's an escape convict, or
yeah,
well,
they
then-
don't like the police don't know or don't like have him in custody, don't have any access to him. He could turn him into the police, but
Yeah, well, technically, I guess he's kind of like helping and like aiding a criminal or whatever. But like,
do you think it makes him a criminal, or do you think like he's just doing that? Do you think it's right that he's helping the guy who helped him? Like, it's kind of like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
yeah,
type of
so
thing.
they're both kind of benefiting off of this deal. So like, I don't know.
I don't know. I think that it's kind of like karma, and he's kind of helping the guy who helped him. And I mean, I probably wouldn't turn him into the police. I guess it's a really tough decision because it's like they've grown really close and they're friends now. So how can you?
Well, they're kind of friends, but not really. Like, this guy's obviously been supplying him money,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, Pip has no idea what that guy's done, what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Like, I almost think that I might turn them in, if not for like the loyalty factor of it all, like the fact that he's been giving you money, so obviously he's not trying to harm you.
Yeah.
Does it ever say that the convict is like trying to like better himself, or is he just kind of?
I don't think he really is trying to better himself at all. I believe it ties in. Well, it ties in with the fact that he's Herbert's uncle, because Herbert and Pip are really great friends. So he's helping Pip achieve his goal, basically to help Herbert out, because Herbert is supposed to help Pip get to gentleman status, I guess. And
Now you hear
that
that
was
too.
weird. Anyways, in the end, Magwitch, who is the benefactor, the convict, we learn that he ends up dying, but not because Pip turned him in. Pip was trying to escape with him and trying to help him out of a tough spot that he was in. They were basically going to sneak him out of the town and help him. He dies shortly after from an illness when he gets caught. Do you think that's like suiting? Like, do you think that's where Pip's criminal life will die, or do you think if he were to have some sort of income, he would become a criminal again?
Is this kind of the end of his money, or is he getting any more money from any
Well,
other place, or?
By this time, he's achieved gentleman status, and he's still able to support himself as far as money goes, but he's not going to have the same amount of money coming in, because £500 a year back at that time was a lot.
So that's what he's getting every year?
Yeah.
Well, then I would have to assume that if he's able to like hold himself up, he wouldn't have to keep
He
doing crime.
wouldn't have to become a criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes
And
a lot of
then,
sense.
Estella. What can we say about Estella? She's kind of a weird character in the book. Like, she likes Pip when he becomes a gentleman, hates him before that. Miss Havisham is also cruel, so that might be where she gets a lot of her values.
It's a
You know,
learned behavior.
she treats Pip like dirt because that's how Miss Havisham sees people. Is like commoners are a lesser people. It's almost like slavery and like whites, blacks and whites, or like poor and rich, that sort of thing. Do you think that Estella is actually changing her ways, or she's gonna continue to be?
I feel like, but off of what I've heard, I feel like she probably won't be doing much different. Like she only likes him because of what status he's at now. Like if he went back to, I believe, a commoner status, she probably would just be done with him.
I don't know. I kind of think that she's gonna stay. I mean, yeah, she only likes him, or like maybe she only likes him because he's reached like his gentleman status. But if she really just wanted a gentleman, she probably could have found a guy who's already a gentleman. Is what I'm trying to say.
Who was her first husband, but there's still a sort of attraction between her and Pip because she ends up hating her first husband. His name's Drummel. He's already a gentleman, and she does end up marrying him. And when Pip finds that out, he's heartbroken, obviously, because his whole goal has been to win Estella. But she ends up hating Drummel. Do you think that's kind of like ironic that she gave up the commoner for the gentleman, but then she ends up not being happy at all with the gentleman?
Yeah, I think that's ironic. She should have just stuck with Pip.
Should have just stuck. Would you stick with Pip though? A low class,
I don't know.
rough talking blacksmith.
This is gonna test
who has not much money or a rich, well-to-do, good-looking guy.
Well, I mean, she does try to help Pip reach that status. So I mean, maybe she gave up too soon.
Maybe not.
Maybe
but that's another thing. It's almost like Dickens put her part in the novel as constructive criticism because Pip learns that commoner status is not what he not where he wants to be. Rather, he learns to hate commoners almost, like they're a lower people. He doesn't want to be a part of it, and that's where him hating his family comes in. So I feel like Dickens added her character simply to help Pip get to that point and to show like a little motivation for him.
Yeah. Would that motivate you, Joe?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, that would motivate me real good.
If some really pretty girl just called you poor and common.
Ah, that's mean.
Well, and it's not only her, it's people throughout the book. There's a lawyer that Miss Havisham has, Mr. Jaggers. Yes, it moves like Jagger. Anyways. you were thinking it. Anyways.
I was thinking it for sure.
He first meets him on a staircase in Miss Havisham's house, and right away, Jaggers is scolding him and, looking down upon him, basically. But later on in the book, Jaggers becomes the whole reason Pip is a gentleman because the benefactor hired Jaggers to make sure that Pip got to gentleman status. So Magwitch hired him to make sure that Pip got where he wanted to be.
Yeah, so I guess he kind of helped motivate him in a way too. I don't know. Sometimes it's like a good thing to have that constructive criticism as long as it's constructive and it's not just trying to break you down and wants to actually help you improve. Because could have just like gave up and been like, oh, no one believes in me. I'm never gonna get there.
Yeah.
Why would I even try?
Well, he could have had a decent life as a blacksmith. He could have supported himself. But with going to Miss Havisham's and seeing how pretty Estella was, he wanted to become sort of that guy that was right for her.
Yeah.
Now, when Miss Jo dies, towards the beginning of the novel, another lady moves in named Biddy. And she kind of takes the role of, like, the mother of the house. Now, Pip almost, when he achieves, like, his gentleman status and he's proper and stuff, he almost gives up on the thought of winning Estella when she's with Drummel. And he goes back to marry Biddy